Hi, I'm Helen. Welcome to my studio and welcome to my Flying Together Unity Doves workshop for Cumbria Unity Festival 2021. In this workshop, I'm going to show you how to create your own beautiful and unique flying paper dove. We're going to be raiding our recycling boxes. Don't need any fancy tools or equipment for this, just some bits of paper, bit of card, some glue and some scissors. We'd really like you to add your own little messages to your doves. So I'll also be showing you how to create a little message scroll for your dove so that it can send its message of unity wherever you choose to hang it. We really hope that we'll end up with a flock of beautiful unity doves, and we'd love you to share your results with us. As it's a video workshop, you can pause, rewind, fast forward and work at your own leisure, but we'd really love to see how you get on. So, let's get making. Let's have a look at the tools and materials we're going to need for this project. So to start off with, you're going to need some card to make the base of your dove. So raid your recycling boxes. Something like the back of a packet is perfect, or if you've had a delivery recently, save the cardboard box, you can use that. Anything really, we're going to be covering it so it doesn't matter what it looks like. You're also going to need a pair of scissors because we've got a bit of cutting out to do. A glue stick. If you haven't got a glue stick, you can use PVA for this, but you'll have to allow a little bit more drying time for your dove. You might find a pencil useful, particularly when drawing out your dove shape. And a Sharpie, a permanent marker, is really good for getting the details onto your dove at the end, giving it a little eye. You might also want some thread or a bit of ribbon for when we make the little message that goes round our dove's neck. And you might also find a needle is useful for this, but none of those bits are essential. What you will need to gather together is some materials to decorate your dove. Now, if you've got a bit of plain card, there's obviously nothing to stop you decorating it with felt tip pens, coloured pencils or paint if you prefer. But I'm going to decorate my doves with a bit of collage. And you can collage with absolutely anything. So again, have a little look through the recycling bin and see what you've got. As an example, I've got some stamps, lots of beautiful designs on there. I've got some scraps of wrapping paper. You can see I've already been cutting things out of this one. A little gift bag, a little paper bag with a nice pattern on. I've got some pages taken from magazines that have got nice patterns on. I've got a magazine. Magazines are really good because you can pick out the pictures that interest you and you can go with a theme. So you could go for floral, for instance. Or you could just pick colours that you like and just gather together a little collection of collage pieces. So here I've started cutting out a few flowers. So if I wanted to, I could use those to collage my dove. Once you've gathered everything together, we're ready to get making. The first thing we need to do is cut out a cardboard dove to start our project. I have provided you with a template, but if you can't print it out or you want to do your own, that's fine. If you're using the template, the first step is to cut it out and draw around it onto the card that you're using. So I've cut mine out of a bit of card already, and I'm going to use this as a template, but this will work just as well with the paper one. And all you need to do is draw around the edge. Don't worry about the folds in the boxes, they won't matter because we're going to collage all over this anyway. And then that shape is ready to be cut out. If you haven't printed out the template or you don't want to use it, you can draw your own. And the easiest way to do this is to start with two egg shapes. We're going to start with a small egg shape for the head and a bigger egg shape underneath to make the body. When you do this, I recommend you do it in pencil so that you can play with it until you get the shape right. I'm using pen so that you can see what I'm doing. To make it more dove-like, we're going to then join up the egg shape. So this is going to be the neck of our pigeon. And there's the back up to make a tail. And you can play around with that shape to make it a bit more pigeon-like. Add on a little beak until you're happy with it. So to make your own pigeon template, small egg for the head, large egg for the body, add a tail and a neck, a little beak, and you're ready to go. So let's get these cut out. As we're using recycled packaging, it shouldn't be too challenging to cut through. If you're using something like a thick cardboard box, you might find it a little bit more difficult, but just take your time, nice and steady, until you have your pigeon shape. There we go. Now you'll notice on the template that there is a little cut mark along here. I'm not going to cut mine yet, I'm going to cut that when it's collaged, but that's where the wings will go. So let's start decorating our dove. Now for the really fun part, decorating our dove. I'm starting on the blank side so you can see what I'm doing, but I am going to decorate both sides of my dove. And as I mentioned before, I'm using a glue stick because it dries nice and quickly. But if you've got PVA and you want to use that, that will work just as well. You'll just need to let it dry before we move on to the next stages. I'm going to use some of these stamps to collage my dove because I really like the idea of them being messages. They've all come off envelopes, off people's post. And there's that idea, isn't there, of messenger pigeons and doves carrying messages and spreading a message of unity and peace. I'm also going to use some bits from this magazine page that I found because I really like the shape. So I'm just going to cut that bit out because I think that will work really nicely on my dove. And I'm going to see if I can fit it maybe somewhere on there. And you can take as much time as you want with this bit. You can just grab a pile of bits of paper and cuttings and get sticking. Or you can arrange everything first and stick it all down once you're happy with the arrangement. Just whatever feels right to you. So I'm going to pop that bit on there. And I'm going to have a little look through. I rather like this one. Got a stalk or something like that on there. So I'm going to pop some glue on and use plenty of glue. Make sure that you get right to the edges. Really want to make sure these are well stuck down. And one of the things that I like to do is I like to overlap the pieces that I'm working with. So I'm overlapping the previous collage but also the edge of the dove, because what I can do is then just turn that over and stick it to the other side. And that will give me a really nice edge on my dove, and also means that when I start sticking on the other side, I'm ready to go. So let's choose some other bits and pieces and just relax and enjoy this bit. There's not really a lot better than a bit of cutting and sticking. Nice relaxing thing to do. Think about the colours that you're using, the textures you're putting together, how the things work. You could stick to one colour theme if you wanted your dove to look a bit neater, a bit more unified if you like. I quite like having a bit of a random mix of things. So I'm just picking out bits that appeal to me. And I'm just getting them nicely layered up. Now you might find that if you've got some tougher bits of paper, it won't fold over the edges. And that's okay, because what you can do with those bits is you can just take your scissors and trim them to size. And I'd probably leave doing that bit to the end, because then you know you'll get a nice neat finish. But if you want to do it as you go along, that's absolutely fine. So keep going, collaging your dove until both sides are covered and you're happy with the results. Once our dove's body is collaged and looking beautiful, we're ready to start adding wings and a tail to our dove. And we're going to do this by making some paper fans, some concertinas. I'm just using magazine pages, but again, you can use coloured paper, wrapping paper, whatever you've got to hand. These are roughly A4 size, so aim for about that, but it really doesn't need to be exact. Bigger sheets will give you a bigger tail or wings, and smaller sheets will make smaller ones. One thing that we do need to do is we need to make a little space for the wing to go through. If you remember on the templates, we had that little mark there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark where I want the wing to go, and I'm going to cut it just with scissors. And the easiest way to do that is to just very carefully fold your dove in half and make a little snip. And there you can see I've got space to push it through. Don't worry if it rips a bit, my glue's still a bit wet, but we need to do that little step there. If you've got a craft knife and a cutting mat, you can do it with a craft knife, but folding it and using scissors will work just fine. So we're going to pop that to the side just for now, and I will show you how to make the concertina. First off, we'll make the concertina for the wings. So I've chosen a nice colourful magazine page, and I'm going to start with it facing me portrait ways. I'm going to turn up about 2 centimetres worth at the bottom, and that's about the same length as the slit that I've made in the side of my dove. So turn up 2 centimetres and make a nice crease. Flip the whole thing over, turn up another 2 centimetres using your first fold as a guide, and crease it again. And what you should start to see is that you're going to get a nice zigzag, a concertina. So flip the whole thing over again, turn it up another 2 centimetres, nice fold, flip it, fold it, flip it, fold it, and keep doing this right the way along the sheet of paper. Don't worry if your folds aren't exact, don't worry if they're all very slightly different widths, it really won't matter, it will just add to the character of your dove. Flip and fold all the way along, and if you get to the end and find that your M1 doesn't match up exactly, it doesn't matter. If you want to, you can trim it off so that all the folds are the same width, but there's absolutely no need to. And what you should have now is a nice stretchy bit of paper, a nice concertina. And all we're going to do for this one is fold it in half so we know where the midpoint is, because this is going to be our wings. And then we're going to feed it through the slit that we've made. Now, if it turns out that your concertina is wider than the slit you've made, which mine is, then carefully just pop your scissors in there and make it a bit wider. Try again. Still need to go a little bit further, so I'm going to go the other way. And you can make the slit quite a bit wider than it needs to be because it's only a thin thing. The width of the paper will hold it in place. So we'll feed that through there. There we go. And don't worry if a bit of your collage comes off in the process, as mine has here. I can glue that down afterwards. And then we're going to feed that through until we get to the middle where we folded it. There we go. Sorry about the squeaking. It's the problem with magazines, they're very squeaky. And there we have our wings. Now you can either leave it so that they're flying out to the side like that, but what I quite like to do is to make them more of a fan shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop some glue along here, like so. I'm going to fold that in half, and what that will do is it will hold my wings together really rather nicely, giving my dove really rather pretty wings. To make the tail, we're going to do very much the same thing, but we don't need to cut a slit. What we're going to do is make 2 concertinas in the same way. So we'll start with our magazine page or whatever paper we're using. Fold up a couple of centimetres, flip the whole thing over, fold up another couple of centimetres, flip the whole thing over, fold up another couple of centimetres, and we're going to keep going like that all the way along. And I chose these pages because I liked the colours. I like the nice warm colours on this one. But you can, of course, adapt it to any colour scheme that you want. There we go. So I've got my concertina, and again, I'm going to fold it in half. And as before, I'm going to glue it down the middle to make a fan. And the reason I'm doing that is because here's one I made earlier. What I want to do is I want to have a really big fantail on this dove. So what I'm going to do is to glue one fan to either side of my dove, which will give a really lovely big tail. So to do that, I'm going to pop glue right the way along this side, from the bottom to the top. I'm going to just overlap probably about 1.5 to 2 centimetres of the dove. Pop another bit of glue on there. And then I'm going to put some glue on this side of this fan. And I'm going to sandwich that tail end in between. And it's also sticking to the other fan, so that I end up with a really big swishy fantail. Now, if you don't want such a big swishy fantail, you can just use 1 page of magazine. If you don't want to glue it, then staples are really good, and a stapler will also help it stick together. If you do find that it's flip-flopping around a bit more than you want it to, what you can do is just pop a little bit of glue at the base of each fold, just in there, and that will hold it together a bit more securely. I'm going to leave mine as it is because I quite like it doing that. But if you want it a bit neater, then just add a little bit of glue to each of those, and that will start to hold it up like so. So we've got our body, we've got wings and a tail. Now our dove needs a message. To add a little message to our dove, what we're going to do is we're going to make a little scroll that can go round our dove's neck. And to do that, we need to cut a little bit of paper. So I'm using this rather beautiful wrapping paper that I had, but you can use any scrap paper that you've got. And I'm just going to cut a strip of paper, which is, mine is about 12 or 13 centimetres long and about 5 centimetres wide, but it doesn't need to be exact. Just think about the size when it's rolled up. And then on the bit of paper, we're going to write our message. Now you can spend as long as you want on this. You might want to write something really thoughtful, something about what unity means to you, or you might just want to put a word down. I'm going to put one of my favourite words, and a word that I think is really important for all of us, and that is creativity. I think creativity can bring us together, and I think it's a really important thing. I think it's important to everyone. So once you've written your message or your word or whatever you want to do, then we're going to make a little scroll, and to do that, I'm just going to roll this bit of paper up into a little scroll, like so. Now, if you want to share your message with people, then you might want to put a little bit of thread to hold it round, or you can make a tie out of the paper by cutting a thin strip with a little notch in it about halfway along that you can then tuck in to the other end like that. Make a little paper tie like so. Or if you want it to be a secret message, you could even glue it shut. I'm going to use a little bit of thread. So I'm just going to roll that up again nice and tightly. So I've got my word in there. Pop a little bit of thread round. And I'm doing this really because I like the look of it more than anything. There we go, so there's the scroll. And to get it round the neck of my dove, I'm going to use a little bit of ribbon, but again you could use more of the thread or even a very thin strip of paper. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed it through the middle of my scroll, this bit of ribbon, and then I'm going to tie it loosely around the neck of my pigeon, my dove, like so. Tidy up that bow a little bit. And you can have it either so that it hangs on one side, like that, or what you can do is tie it much more loosely like so. And the ribbons from the inside of clothing are really good for this because they're really nice and fine. And you can have it so that it dangles down a bit more. Have a play around and see how you want it to look. So our doves are almost done. We just need to give them eyes so they can see where they're going, and a beak so that they can fuel up as they go along. So to do the beak, I'm just going to pop a couple of little lines across there, and I'm using my permanent marker for this, and again using the permanent marker, I'm just going to give my dove an eye so it can see where it's going, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, making sure it doesn't lose its scroll. So a couple of lines to mark the beak, and a nice eye so that your dove can see where it's going and spread its message. And there we go. There's our Unity dove ready to fly together. To hang them up, I found that the easiest way is to thread a needle with a bit of nice thick thread, and then through the top of the wing concertina, just poke your needle through. There we go, nice long loop of thread. Tie the ends together. And then you can hang your dove up, ready to spread its message, whatever your message might be on the little scroll, or just to amuse you. So thank you very much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed it, and we'd really love to see how you get on. So do please share your Unity doves with Cumbria Unity Festival, and most of all, have fun and enjoy yourselves.